When Keanu Reeves' car breaks down outside a small, forgotten auto shop, he expects nothing more than a quick repair. But inside, working alone under dim fluorescent lights, is an aging mechanic with tired hands and a silent determination. Something about the man, his precision, his solitude, sticks with Keanu long after he drives away. A week later, Keanu returns, hoping to say thank you. But when he arrives, the shop is dark. The doors are locked, and what he learns next leaves him standing in the middle of the street, shaken. Before we continue this story, let us know where you're watching from. And if you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow we have another special story for you. The sun was setting over Los Angeles, casting a golden glow over the city streets. Inside a small, old-fashioned auto repair shop on the outskirts of town, Henry Carter wiped the grease from his hands and let out a weary sigh. At 72 years old, Henry had spent most of his life working on cars. His small, one-man shop had survived for decades, outlasting big dealerships and modern repair chains. Not because it was fancy, but because people trusted him. But trust didn't pay hospital bills. Henry winced slightly as he pressed a hand to his chest, feeling a familiar discomfort. It had been happening more often lately. Probably just exhaustion, he told himself. He didn't have time to be sick. Just as Henry was preparing to close up for the night, the unmistakable roar of an engine struggling for life filled the air. Turning toward the garage entrance, Henry squinted at the sight of a Ferrari, deep red, sleek, a classic model, rolling to a stop in front of his shop. The car was beautiful, expensive, the kind of thing that belonged in a high-end showroom, not in his little workshop. The engine coughed one last time before giving out completely. A moment later, the driver's door swung open. A tall man, dressed in a black leather jacket and dark jeans, stepped out, pulling off his sunglasses. His presence was effortlessly cool, the kind of guy who looked like he belonged in a movie scene rather than a dusty auto shop. He approached Henry with a calm, polite expression. "Evening. Think you could take a look?" Henry eyed the car, then the man. There was something familiar about him, but Henry didn't place it. Probably just another rich guy with a fancy toy, he thought. He let out a low grunt. "Too much luxury for my taste." The man chuckled. "Yeah, but a car's still a car, right?" Henry smirked. "A motor is a motor." Without another word, he grabbed his toolbox and popped open the hood, never once realizing that he had just met Keanu Reeves. As Henry leaned over the engine, his skilled hands immediately got to work, feeling out the issue, testing the components. The man stood by, watching with genuine interest, his arms casually folded. "You work alone?" he asked. "Always have." Henry's voice was gruff, but not unkind. These days, no one wants to actually fix things. They just swap out parts and charge a fortune. The man nodded thoughtfully. "I respect that. A real mechanic." Henry snorted. "Damn right." But as he continued working, a sharp pain shot through his chest. He grimaced, but quickly covered it up, shaking it off. Just a little strain. He'd be fine. After all, he had work to do. As the man leaned in slightly, watching the master at work, Henry muttered, "I can fix this. Just need a few minutes." What he didn't know was that this was no ordinary customer, and the man watching him would soon change his life forever. The evening air in Los Angeles was cooling, but inside Henry Carter's small garage, the air was thick with the scent of oil, metal, and hard work. Henry, sleeves rolled up, tool in hand, leaned over the open hood of the Ferrari, his experienced eyes scanning the engine for the source of the problem. The tall man, dressed in a black leather jacket and dark jeans, stood nearby, watching with quiet patience. Henry had seen his kind before, rich guys who loved their cars but had no idea how they worked. But there was something different about this one. Henry muttered to himself as he reached inside the engine bay. Too much wiring, too many computers. These modern cars don't let you feel the machine anymore." The man smirked, nodding. "I like people who do things the right way." Henry snorted. "Yeah? Then you're in the wrong city, kid." The man chuckled, but said nothing. Henry focused on the engine, twisting a wrench, adjusting a belt. He had worked on thousands of cars in his life. And this one? It wasn't so different. But Henry's breathing felt heavier than usual. A dull pressure settled in his chest, but he ignored it. He had a job to finish. As Henry worked, the man stayed nearby, genuinely interested. "So, you've been doing this a long time?" Henry didn't look up. 50 years. Opened this shop in 74. Kept it running ever since." The man nodded, impressed. "That's rare these days." Henry wiped grease from his hands, studying the stranger. "Yeah? What do you do?" The man smiled. "I work in entertainment." Henry raised an eyebrow. "Music? Movies?" The man hesitated for a fraction of a second. "Movies," Henry grunted. "Figures. Always a guy from Hollywood driving a Ferrari." The man laughed, not offended, just amused. "Not mine. Borrowed it from a friend. But I do like cars." Henry nodded approvingly. "At least you respect him. Most people with money just treat him like trophies." The man's smile faded slightly, and he nodded again. "Yeah, I've never cared much about trophies." Henry turned back to the engine, gripping a wrench, and froze. A sharp, burning pain shot through his chest, spreading across his ribs. His breath hitched. His vision blurred for a split second. The pain eased, but his hands shook slightly. He clenched his jaw. He'd been having these episodes for a while now. No time for that. He forced himself to move, tightening the last bolt. The engine was fixed. That was what mattered. Henry stepped back and wiped his forehead. "All right, try it now." The man slid into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine rumbled to life. A perfect, smooth growl. Henry crossed his arms, satisfied. "There she is." The man smiled, running his hands over the wheel. "Beautiful." He got out of the car, reaching for his wallet. "How much do I owe you?" Henry shook his head. "Nothing. Seeing a car run right is enough for me." The man paused, looking genuinely surprised. "Are you sure?" Henry waved him off. "I don't charge for easy jobs. Just come back if she gives you trouble again." The man studied Henry for a moment. Then he smiled. "I will, and I'll bring you a coffee next time." Henry chuckled. "Just don't bring that fancy Starbucks crap." The man laughed, stepping into the Ferrari. He rolled down the window, giving Henry a nod of respect. "See you soon, Mr. Carter." Henry just grunted, watching as the car pulled onto the road. He had no idea who he had just helped, and he had no idea how much that man would change his life. As Henry locked up his shop, his chest tightened again. For a moment, he struggled to breathe. He gripped the doorframe, waiting for it to pass. And then, just like before, it did. Shaking it off, he turned off the lights. Another day, another car. But tomorrow? Tomorrow would be different, because the man he had just helped was already making plans to return. And this time, he wouldn't come empty-handed. The sound of the Ferrari's engine hummed beneath him as Keanu Reeves drove through the quiet Los Angeles streets, the night air cool against his skin. His hands rested lightly on the steering wheel, but his mind wasn't on the car. It was on Henry Carter. That old mechanic, gruff, stubborn, but honest to the bone. A rare thing in this city. Keanu had met countless people in his life. Actors, directors, billionaires. But there was something about Henry. Something real. And for some reason, Keanu couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to know more about him. When Keanu got home, he poured himself a glass of water and grabbed his laptop. He typed into the search bar, "Henry Carter, Auto Repair, Los Angeles." The first result was a simple website, clearly outdated. No fancy branding. No flashy promotions. Just the words, Carter's Auto Repair. Honest work since 1974. Keanu clicked through. A few grainy photos showed Henry as a younger man, standing proudly in front of his shop, a wrench in hand. He scrolled further and saw something that caught his eye. Forum posts. From regular customers, people who had written about Henry over the years. Keanu leaned in, reading, "I was broke, and my car broke down on the freeway. Henry fixed it for free. Said to pay him when I could. I never forgot that. This man once stayed after hours to fix my truck so I could make it to my night shift. Wouldn't take extra money. My dad brought his car here for 30 years. When he passed, Henry fixed his old Chevy just so we could drive it to the funeral." Keanu's grip on the laptop tightened. This guy wasn't just a mechanic. He was a pillar of his community. And yet, no one outside of this little neighborhood seemed to know it. Keanu sat back in his chair, staring at the screen. He had met Henry for less than an hour, but now, he knew one thing for sure. Henry Carter wasn't just anyone. He was one of the good ones. And people like him, they deserved more than to be forgotten. Keanu glanced back at his laptop screen, his mind already working. There had to be a way to repay Henry, but not with money. Henry wouldn't accept it. He had already refused payment once. So what did Henry care about? Keanu thought back to the conversation in the garage. How Henry talked about fixing things right. How he said mechanics today just swapped parts instead of knowing the machine. And then, it hit him. Keanu smiled to himself. This wasn't about giving Henry a check. This was about giving him a legacy. Keanu closed his laptop and picked up his phone. There was someone he needed to call. But before he could dial, something strange happened. His phone buzzed first. An unknown number. He frowned, hesitating for a second before answering. "Hello?" A hesitant voice spoke on the other end. "Hey, is this Keanu Reeves?" Keanu sat up straighter. "Who's asking?" The voice sighed. "My name's Bill. I own the laundromat across from Henry Carter's shop." Keanu's grip tightened on the phone. Why was this guy calling him? "How'd you get this number?" Keanu asked. Bill hesitated. "Look, I know this is weird, but I saw you at Henry's shop tonight. And, well, I figured if anyone could help, it's you." Keanu's heart dropped. Something was wrong. What happened? Bill sighed again. "Henry's in the hospital." Keanu felt a chill run through him. He had planned to go back to Henry's shop tomorrow. Now, he realized, tomorrow might be too late. He grabbed his keys. He was going now, because some debts couldn't wait. And Henry Carter deserved more than just another forgotten story. Keanu didn't waste a second. He grabbed his car keys, threw on a jacket, and was out the door in minutes. Henry Carter was in the hospital. And Keanu had a bad feeling that this wasn't just some overnight stay. The streets were quieter than usual when Keanu pulled up to Carter's Auto Repair. But the moment he parked, his chest tightened. The garage, normally dimly lit but open late, was completely dark. And on the door, taped unevenly, was a single sheet of paper. Keanu stepped out of his car, his boots echoing against the pavement as he approached the entrance. The note read, "Closed indefinitely." His jaw tightened. So it was true. Henry wasn't here, and judging by the way the place looked, he hadn't been here for days. As Keanu stood there, still processing, the sound of footsteps made him turn. A man in his 60s, dressed in a faded flannel shirt, stood near the laundromat across the street. He had a look of recognition in his eyes. "You're the guy from last night, aren't you?" Keanu nodded slowly. "Bill?" The man gave a small, sad smile. "Yeah. Sorry to call you out of nowhere, but I figured you'd want to know." Keanu's voice was low, steady. "What happened?" Bill sighed, rubbing a hand over his graying beard. "Henry had a spell while working the other day. Looked real bad. One of his customers found him hunched over in the garage, trying to push through it. Keanu clenched his jaw. He remembered Henry pausing, rubbing his chest while working on the Ferrari. He had known something was off. He should have asked, should have stayed longer. "Where is he?" Keanu asked, his voice firm. "County General. Been there since Monday." Keanu nodded, already stepping toward his car. Bill called after him. "Listen, I don't know what your connection to Henry is, but that man, he's been holding this place together for longer than most people have been alive. And now..." Keanu turned back, waiting. Bill sighed. "Now, I don't know if he's got it in him to keep fighting." Keanu's grip tightened on his car keys. Henry had given everything to his shop, to this community. And now, when he needed help, there was no one left to fight for him. Keanu wasn't going to let that happen. Without another word, he slid into his car and sped off toward the hospital. Because this wasn't just about fixing a broken motor anymore. This was about fixing something bigger. As Keanu pulled onto the freeway, his hands clenched the wheel. Henry might not want charity, but Keanu wasn't offering charity. He was offering something more. And whether Henry liked it or not, Keanu wasn't leaving that hospital without a plan. Because this wasn't just a visit. This was the beginning of something much bigger. The hallways of County General smelled of antiseptic and old coffee. Keanu Reeves walked through them with purpose, his boots softly echoing against the linoleum. He wasn't here for an autograph. He wasn't here for publicity. He was here for Henry Carter. And if Bill's words had been right, time wasn't on their side. At the front desk, a nurse blinked when she saw Keanu. To her credit, she didn't ask for a selfie. "I'm looking for Henry Carter. He was admitted a few days ago." She typed into the system, then nodded. "Room 317, third floor. He's stable, but don't expect him to be too talkative." Keanu thanked her and headed for the elevator. Stable. That was good. But if Henry wasn't talking much, that meant something was wrong. And Keanu needed to find out what. The hospital room was dimly lit. Henry lay in bed, pale, hooked up to an IV and a heart monitor. Keanu stood there for a moment, just watching. The man who had been fixing his Ferrari like it was nothing now looked tired. Then, Henry's eyes cracked open. And the first thing out of his mouth? "Damn! Don't tell me your car broke down again." Keanu grinned. Even now, Henry was still Henry. He pulled up a chair. "Nope. Still running like a dream." Henry snorted, then winced, a hand moving to his chest. Keanu frowned. "How bad is it?" Henry shrugged. The motion looked exhausting. "Doctors say I got a heart that doesn't like listening to me anymore. Kinda like a busted engine, but I can't swap it out." Keanu's jaw tightened. This wasn't just a bad week. This was serious, and Henry knew it. Keanu leaned forward. "Look, Henry, I want to help." Henry let out a dry chuckle. "Kid, I know who you are. You're rich, famous, and whatever you're about to say involves money." Keanu didn't blink. "Yeah, I want to pay your medical bills." Henry turned his head, expression unreadable. Then, after a long pause, he shook his head. "No." Keanu exhaled slowly. "Henry, I don't take handouts, kid." His voice was firm. Keanu studied him. Henry wasn't just proud. He had spent his life standing on his own 2 feet. He wasn't about to change that now. Keanu nodded slowly. Fine. If Henry wouldn't take money, Keanu would have to think of something better. Keanu sat back. Then, suddenly, "You built something, Henry, and you're just gonna let it die?" Henry frowned. "What the hell are you talking about?" Keanu gestured. "Your shop, your work, the people you've helped. What happens when you're not there anymore?" Henry sighed. "Guess it closes." Keanu tilted his head. "Does that sit right with you?" Henry was quiet. Keanu could see it, the weight of it sinking in. Then, Keanu leaned forward. "I have an idea." Henry narrowed his eyes. "Oh, I bet you do." Keanu smirked. "Hear me out." Henry had spent his life fixing broken things. Now, Keanu was about to fix something for him. And whether Henry liked it or not, this was just the beginning. Once Henry was stable enough to leave, Keanu got to work. Over the next few weeks, Henry's shop transformed. The old Carter's Auto Repair sign was taken down, and a new one took its place, teaching the next generation. Henry fought him on the name. "I don't need my name on a damn building." Keanu had just smirked. "It's not just a building, it's a story." That shut Henry up real quick. When the shop reopened, the turnout was bigger than anyone expected. Former customers, young mechanics, even kids who had never touched an engine before, they all showed up. Some just wanted to see Henry again. Others, they wanted to learn. Keanu stood back, watching. Henry, gruff as ever, barked at a nervous 19-year-old holding a wrench wrong. "If you're gonna fix a car, at least hold the damn tool like you mean it." The kid gulped, adjusted his grip, and tried again. Keanu chuckled. Henry would never change. But that's exactly why this would work. That night, as Henry locked up, he turned to Keanu. His voice was quiet, but real. "Guess I owe you one, kid." Keanu smirked. "Nah, you already paid me back." Henry frowned. "How the hell did I do that?" Keanu gestured toward the shop. "By proving that the right way is still worth teaching." Henry looked at the sign one last time, and for the first time in a long time, he felt proud. One evening, Henry stood outside, looking up at the new sign. It read, "The Henry Carter Technical Garage, since 1974, and underneath, a new line, "Because some things deserve to be done right." Henry smiled. Maybe he hadn't planned for any of this. Maybe life had thrown him a curveball. But one thing was for sure. His story wasn't over. And now it never would be.